Greetings, Starfighters. Welcome to the next episode of Shameless Cashgrab, and we've got a movie that has no actor names that I recognize in here, called The Excalibur Kid, and it's an Arthurian story. So, it's really not much more to say about that here. It doesn't. There's not much on the back of the case to work with regards to this movie. Um, I just know for sure it's not going to be as good as The Green Knight. Did you see The Green Knight? You should see The Green Knight. Saw it last year. Great. Not enough Arthurian movies with no Lancelot in them. Fuck that guy. Anyway, yeah. The Excalibur Kid. Let's jump right in. Okay, so I have now watched The Excalibur Kid from 1999. Plot summary courtesy of Letterboxd. Zack doesn't have your ordinary adolescent problems. Transported back in time to medieval England, he lands in the middle of a vicious battle between an evil witch and Merlin, the master sorcerer, for control of Arthur's kingdom. It's up to Zack to help Merlin and Arthur reclaim the magic sword Excalibur and return Arthur to his rightful place on the throne. Alright, first up, some shocking news. This is not a Paul Matthews production. At all. He's not a producer or writer, and he didn't direct this. I don't see his production company's name anywhere near this, either. In fact, we've hit a milestone, folks, because guess who is attached to this movie? Charles fucking Band. Yes, we are looking at our first ever movie distributed by a company owned by the guy behind Full Moon Productions. Full Moon. The studio behind the Subspecies films. The Puppet Master movies. Ginger Dead Man! You know, come to think of it, I don't think the last two movies this season are from Paul Matthews either. I just... No words. Should have sent a poet. You know, if it wasn't for that damn neighborhood dog that barks at me in my own driveway, I'd film a bit outside and I'd have my aunt hold the camera while I run back and forth screaming, "I'm free! I'm free!" Nah, let's face it, I probably wouldn't do that anyway. Alas, the classic Full Moon logo is not at the start of the movie. In fact, the name Full Moon doesn't appear on the movie either. It's a company owned by Charles Band. Oh well. Now, does this mean the movie will be good? Fuck no. But at least it has a chance of being bad in a fun way. So first up, okay, there is one connection to the other films this season. I've seen the Multicom Entertainment Group logo multiple times. I just don't think... I think that they only distributed the Paul Matthews films. I don't think he has any actual connection to that company. Interestingly, this time around, when it shows up, there's no musical sting, just silence. When that happened, I actually thought that I'd accidentally muted my video player. As for after the logos, we aren't off to a promising start. One of the first things we see after the opening credits, and a quick appearance by this film's Merlin, we see the evil witch from the summary named Morgause, instead of Morgana or Morgan because... Anyway, she's casting a spell to look into the future, and what she sees is our main character, annoying family drama, and clumsy exposition. Also, bad acting from everyone involved, including the adults. If anything, the adult actors playing Zack's parents are worse than the child actors. Yikes. Mercifully, this is the only scene we get with them the whole movie. We cut back and forth between her and Merlin, who cast his own spell, which is the same special effect, except blue instead of red. The green spell is the synthesis spell. Anyway, Merlin is not watching our main character, Zack, but rather a young and somewhat clumsy Arthur, which then jumps to him pulling the sword out of the stone, Excalibur, and then suddenly he's already king and has full facial hair. Merlin then starts talking in confused temporal language. I take it to mean this film is going with the aging backwards version of Merlin's lore. Or at least I hope they are, otherwise this scene is just badly written. We see some more of Zack and the establishing of his fencing skills while he quibbles with his younger brother, who sounds dubbed to me, but I could be wrong. We get a bit more of the spell work going on, and I appreciate that this movie makes magic looks like it takes actual work, and not just a few words and a flick of the hand. I think they belabor the point and could have moved on from it by now, but hey, nothing wrong with a little world building. Zack gets pulled into the past by another Morgoth spell, in such a way that he doesn't notice until he heads back to his house and suddenly sees different buildings. He takes it all in stride, though, and doesn't seem confused at all. Probably because the director forgot to tell him he was supposed to act confused. He finds Excalibur, meaning that he's been brought to before Arthur got it, which is actually pretty clever as Arthurian villain plots go. Most of the time they just try to kill him. Zack manages to pull out the sword. I walked right into that one. He gets Excalibur, and a red light is CGI'd onto, appears around him, though he doesn't seem to notice. Morgoth at this point starts loudly claiming that he's her brother and that people should run and tell everyone there's a king in England again, leaving Zack looking rightfully confused. Though he eventually decides to roll with it. On the one hand, props to the movie for not wasting too much time getting to the main plot, but on the other, Zack seems remarkably chill about having been yanked back in time to another country, when earlier in the film he was calling his parents fascists for moving the family from the suburbs into the city. Merlin is sitting in a tavern and looks up and says that something's gone wrong. This is confirmed for him when Arthur runs in and goes into the back to retrieve a non-legendary sword. Merlin is naturally less than thrilled about this. Morgoth, who sounds very American in this movie, rallies the crowd around King Zachary, and their enthusiasm sounds faker than some of the worst canned laughter I've ever heard on sitcoms. This leads to a fight in the town square that makes sense in context, but I just noticed the script is already 3 pages, and we aren't even halfway through yet. Morgoth's leading Zack away from the fighting, stuff happens, we get a Gwyneth as opposed to a Guinevere, but hey, no Lancelot in sight, so that's a plus. He does get name-dropped at one point, but at least we don't have to put up with him. And I think Gwyneth is supposed to be a different person anyway. Not sure why they gave her a similar-sounding name, since the movie doesn't attempt any sort of fake-out with her. Maybe there was one planned but scrapped mid-filming? More stuff happens, a scene with a CD player that was honestly funnier when Disney did it in A Kid in King Arthur's Court, which was a very loose adaptation of Mark Twain's A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. And wait a minute. A Kid in King Arthur's Court came out in 1995. This was filmed in 1998. Full Moon is doing a ripoff. Well, okay, not Full Moon, but the Charles Band Company is doing a ripoff of A Kid in King Arthur's Court? I don't think that movie was particularly successful at the time. I mean, did you even remember that it existed until I mentioned it? Anyway, there's an invisibility cloak here, and some bad CGI bubbles, yada yada. Zack overhears Morgoth's evil plan, but we're not even a third of the way through, so unless we have a very long denouement, this might be a little too early from a storytelling perspective. Zack escapes and goes to Merlin's house in the woods, which he knew how to get to because the bubbles, I guess. It's a little vague. At first, I thought the bubbles were just for the audience to know where Zack was, but I guess he was actually following them, though how he knew he was supposed to do that is not clear at all. I can forgive a lot when magic is established as part of the setting, but I can only go so far with that. I mean, I've rolled with all the other magic in the film up to now, so don't think I'm suddenly going all CinemaSins on you here. It's just that this needed to be clearer. So after Zack asks questions that I'm sure the audience is thinking of, Merlin rants about the disruption of the timeline and learns from Zack about Morgoth, who he knows already from the legend. Wait, but so if Zack already knew then who she was, forget it. Merlin pieces together that Morgoth has the Dark Book.
Not to be confused with the thing from WandaVision and Doctor Strange 2, that's the Dark Hold. The two of them plan to arrange for Arthur to get Excalibur, but for the time being, Zack has to pretend to go along with Morgause's plans. Along the way, Merlin confirms that he is aging backwards, and the future is his past. Zack asks why he walks and talks forward then, which is actually pretty funny. Well, it's funnier in the movie than when I simply repeat it. The point is, points to the movie for a legitimately good joke. Zack and Merlin go to talk to Arthur, who doesn't believe them. Fair enough. Zack rather recklessly drops on Arthur the whole, you have a sister and your father isn't really your father thing. We then get to Morgause preparing an enslavement spell, so that takes care of the conflict for the second half of the movie. And it also leads to a who's on first type bit, except bad. Given how well it works on her test subjects, it does explain why she doesn't just use it on Zachary, so no plot hole there. That was another jab at CinemaSins. If it seems like I'm being extra salty about them lately, I saw clips of their review of James Gunn's Suicide Squad movie, and god damn, if missing the point were an Olympic event. Anyway, back to the Excalibur kid. On that note, we haven't actually seen much of the sword itself this movie. I know it's just a plot device, but that just makes how little we've seen it since the first time Zack was taken to his bedroom in the castle stand out more. Stuff happens, Zack tries talking to Arthur again, it starts to work, but only just. Morgause locks Zack in his bedroom after brainwashing more guards, which leads to a 2.5 long Monty Python ripoff, but eventually, with Merlin's help, he escapes, and they, along with Arthur, hide from Morgause's soldiers, who have been told Arthur is a traitor. Zack gives Arthur Excalibur, which leads to a blue glow. If we see green after... wait, we already made the Mass Effect joke earlier, never mind. Merlin and Morgause have a wizard battle that is about as exciting as watching an Ingmar Bergman film when you don't want to. I specify the when you don't want to part so it doesn't sound like I'm slagging off Bergman. Seventh Seal's a great movie, but I wanted to watch it. Anyway, the battle intercuts occasionally with Arthur and Zack fighting brainwashed castle guards, and Merlin ultimately wins with a rope-a-dope strategy of making Morgause waste her energy on the offensive. I want to like this more, but the shoddy CGI and neither actor having that much screen presence undercuts it. It's a good idea, though. I'll give the filmmakers credit for that. Ultimately, Morgause caves and attempts to use a spell from the Dark Book she simply isn't ready for yet, in desperation, which fails when Arthur is able to deflect it with his sword, causing it to bounce back and destroy the book. Had Morgause been at full power, that probably wouldn't have worked. However, Excalibur itself is damaged in the process, and Merlin, Zack, and Arthur are faced with the prospect of having to live on the run as a number of castle denizens, that are not brainwashed, saw Arthur holding the broken sword after the battle was already over, and were less than pleased, to put it mildly. But Zack is able to figure out how to use Merlin's backwards aging to fix the issue with some time travel wibbly-wobbly stuff. And Zack is returned to his own time with no memory of what he went through, makes sense in context, but somehow retaining some of his character growth. It's magic, don't worry about it. Random thoughts I had while watching the movie. While not great, overall the music in this movie is probably the best so far this season. At one point, while watching Zack look at Excalibur from a distance, Morgause goes, "Go on, give it a tug, you know you want to." If I used clips of the movies I talk about in this show, like the more professional film YouTubers do, that one would have been immediately followed by a phrasing clip from Archer. Though last time I tried to use a phrasing clip, it somehow ended up being partially played over my audio in the episode, and we still have no idea how that happened. This film's Merlin is... meh. Honestly, Rick Mayall was a better Merlin, despite being in a much worse movie. Frankly, I'm not even sure this guy is better than Robert Davi's Merlin, and it is weird that I live in a timeline where Robert Davi played Merlin. I mean, I get it. They can't all be Nicole Williamson, who manages to be a personal favorite in terms of Merlin portrayals, despite the fact that overall, I actually don't like John Boorman's Excalibur. I mean, he's great in it, but good God, that movie is dull. The point is, the guy in this movie feels like the Wish.com version of, well, the Merlin from Disney's The Sword and the Stone, which is an underrated movie. Fight me. But yeah, there's another Disney ripoff for you there. The slang Zach uses dates this movie so hard. If you didn't know it was made in the 90s before you started watching it, you'd know not too long after Zach started talking. His Discman would probably be a clue too. Final verdict. This was not bad enough to be a Paul Matthews movie, but it's not so bad it's good enough to be a Full Moon picture. Yeah, I know, not Full Moon. Yeah. The biggest flaw in the movie is the main character. Pretty much the entire film relies on him and just believing what everyone tells him without question most of the time. Still, looking back over the script here, I had more positive things to say about this than I think any of the prior films, the prior films this season. So, can't really recommend it to anyone who's not a completionist for Arthurian movies or for, well, anything connected to Charles Band. But there are so many worse movies on both fronts. Hell, there are Arthurian movies with bigger budgets and star power behind them that are worse than the Excalibur Kid. I don't think this is a controversial take at all. I don't think I've ever met anyone who liked First Night. Anyway, next time we are entering a realm we have never entered before on Shameless Cashgrab. Come back next time for Dragon World, The Legend Continues, our first ever animated feature. Have fun. Stay safe. And also, bring back the assault weapons ban. I wrote and recorded this episode the week of the latest mass school shooting in Texas, and just... fucking Christ, people.